You are now tuned in to Papi Chulo Radio, your web portal for the best in pop culture news and interviews.
My mother, what is the phrase? She isn't quite herself today.
The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program. The views and opinions expressed in the commentaries and or interviews in the following program are solely those of the individuals and are not views of Papi Chulo Radio, its parent, affiliate, or subsidiary companies.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to Horror Hotel, a PapiChuloRadio.com and iTunes exclusive Papi Chulo Radio pop culture on demand. I am your host and hotel owner, Jeffrey Aruz. We're so glad you could check in. We've been dying to have you. Here on Horror Hotel, we are going to explore some of Hollywood's scariest, most frightening, and creepiest films. Please welcome my co-hosts, Concierge Supervisor Legionnaire.
Make me a sergeant in charge of the booze.
Night Auditor Mark Estes.
Damn.
Oh, we only get one?
Because that was a little annoying. I was like, child. Anyway, I'm sorry.
All right, Enlinson Girl. And Banquet Manager Ramon Marquise.
Hope you guys are ready. Let's get this started.
Before we head on over to the ballroom, let's stop by the front desk where one of our bellhops has a few special announcements.
Good evening. We thank you for your patronage. Please step all the way in, and make room for everyone. There's no turning back now. I didn't mean to frighten you prematurely. The real chills come later. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PCR Horror Hotel. Follow Papi Chulo Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube, at Papi Chulo Radio. For more information on Horror Hotel, visit papichuloradio.com/Horror Hotel. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@papichuloradio.com. Help support Papi Chulo Radio financially by visiting gofundme.com/papichuloradio. Are you interested in joining the Papi Chulo Radio team as an on-air personality or blog contributor? Email talent@papichuloradio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Papi Chulo Radio programs by visiting papichuloradio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through iTunes. Just search for Papi Chulo Radio's Horror Hotel, and subscribe. Now, grab some popcorn and some snacks. You may step into the ballroom. It's time for your feature presentation.
Thank you. It's time to fire up the film projector in our ballroom so that we can discuss 1954's Them! Exclamation point. Here's the official synopsis of the film. The earliest atomic tests in New Mexico cause common ants to mutate into giant man-eating monsters that threaten civilization. Brum, brum, brum. Okay. So you all know the question that I ask at the very beginning. Has anyone ever seen this movie? Have you seen it? Have you not seen it? Is this the first time? Is this multiple times? Let's get into it. And We'll start off with Ramon, because I have a feeling he has a lot of opinions.
Well, this is actually the first time I ever saw this movie. I've heard of it numerous times, but it was the first time I saw it. So I'll just start there.
All right. What about you, Legionnaire?
I heard of it, but had never seen it. So this would be my first time.
Oh, that's interesting, because a little aunt once told me that you're big into creature features, like monsters.
I am.
Yeah, so.
I am. Just I was surprised I hadn't seen this.
I like it. How about you, Mark?
Heard about it, but hadn't seen it.
Okay. I'll be honest. I feel like I've seen this, but I'm still not certain after seeing it if I had ever seen it before. When I was a kid, back in the Disney, they used to air weird black and white movies on the weekends on the television, like the local channels, which eventually ended up becoming UPN and the WB, which then ended up becoming the CW and whatever the hell the UPN channel is now called that I don't watch. But they used to air these really old movies back in the day, in the afternoon. And I remember seeing a black and white movie about, it wasn't just ants. So I might have seen this one, but this might not be the one that I remembered as I was selecting the movies for this season. But I remember seeing a movie where it was giant bugs, like ants and spiders, and I remember seeing a black and white real life spider made to look like it was ginormous and attacking a town. And so I feel like I've seen this one before though, but as an adult, I really saw this with fresh eyes because I felt like I'd never seen it before. But maybe I hadn't. I don't know. I can't remember, to be quite honest. But I feel like I might have seen this before, but I probably hadn't. But anyway, that's a whole nother story for I guess a whole nother day. One of the reasons why I did select this movie is as we are going through this very first season of this podcast, I wanted to tackle different types of horror movies, not just what is typically seen vampires and ghosts and demons and that kind of stuff. I wanted to have us view some creature features as well. And this one is sort of seen as the mother of all creature features, basically. And yeah, so let's get into the cast. We start off with who should we do first? Let's do with Sergeant Ben Peterson. We have James Whitmore as Sergeant Peterson. We've got James Arness as FBI Agent Robert Graham. We've got Joan Weldon as Dr. Pat Medford. A shout out to Sandy Desher as the Ellison girl.
Oh, yeah, Lord.
We've got Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
I blinked and missed him.
Had a small little bit part.
For real.
Yeah, we had, for those out there familiar with Walt Disney's Davy Crockett, Fess Parker is in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was an interesting cast. Did anyone that I didn't mention sort of stand out to any of you?
Well, Dub Taylor, who was a comedic actor that came up and through there. So that was one of the names that stood out for me, that caught my attention as well.
And I guess that's it. So, okay. So, let's talk about this story. Because we start off basically in the middle of nowhere, driving through the desert, and these two New Mexico State Police, a sergeant and a trooper, end up they end up seeing this little girl walking aimlessly through the desert. She's got a little doll, and she's got, like pajamas on, basically. And she's kind of in a weird daze. And she's non-responsive, she's not talking, she doesn't look like she's understanding them. And then, they end up taking her to a mobile home. And they see that the mobile home has been attacked. And all of a sudden there's this high-pitched sound. And they don't see it, but we see it. The little girl rises.
Mm-hmm.
So, since no one here had ever seen this, what did y'all think was happening? Because, we have, 10 minutes where it's slowly setting something up, but we genuinely, have no idea what the hell's coming, basically.
And I think that's what really did it for me, because you really don't know what's coming. A lot of times you can watch these types of movies and they're very predictable in certain aspects, but I appreciate the fact that that little girl, first of all, was one of my favorites from this movie. It's another scene when I was just it was another scene with her later on when I was like, oh no, this bitch is crazy. This little girl, I don't know, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but when she's in the chair and she's still in that daze, then all of a sudden she starts screaming. Oh yeah, that did it for me. But I don't know, the fact of the unknown really gravitated me towards how the movie started, especially seeing this little girl with her toy and she's not comprehending nothing. And me, I'm the kind of person where, okay, well, this chick is crazy. I'm finna keep going. She must be possessed or something. That's the first thing that would have came to my mind.
For me, I saw, bits, you've seen clips of it in different movies and stuff like this. So you kind of get, you knew what was, from an outstanding point, you knew what was coming. But like Ramon just eloquently stated, the tension, the building up of stuff. If you just sat here and just so happened to watch it on one of those Saturday afternoons, like you were talking about, Poppy, that, where you can see it, building up, what is going on, put all this stuff together, because now somebody who probably had is a whiz in biology class or something like that could probably be oh, that's characteristics of yada yada, but you're they didn't know that, and the people probably watched the movie wasn't keen on it, because they took forever and a day to set up what was good, but it was good tension building. Right. And may I not try to again also not jump ahead, but Tremors did the exact same thing, and I see where they got that from, and it made it's wonderful. So,
yeah, I like. Oh wait, go ahead, Legionnaire.
No, I was gonna say I like the mystery of it. I guess I unfortunately had the disadvantage of knowing a lot of what was coming, or at least having an idea of what the movie was about. But even so, I a lot of people would find this kind of thing really boring because they want to just get to whatever the conflict is. But I liked how it built up. I liked how, there was this weird sound and they don't know what the hell it is, but clearly she knows, she has some connection to it because she reacts to it, but they don't see her react. So it's like they said, like the other guy said, it's the building of the tension of okay, what's really going on here? So all these little things start to come together. And so, yeah, it was cool because clearly I didn't know what the hell it was I was supposed to be hearing.
Yeah, the setup was really well done. It did take a minute for them to really set up the entire movie, because we don't get our first peek of what the hell is doing anything until, and I tracked it, it was 28 minutes into the movie. But those 28 minutes were really interesting because we got, it was that, the pulsating sound that we would hear. And then it was the weird tracks in the sand. And then it's the mobile home, has been ransacked by something that had enough power to do what it did. And then all of a sudden the gas station is the same, it's been ransacked, and then we get a little bit of a taste of what it could be, but if you don't know what the movie's about, then you don't pick it up. But
Right.
I researched the movies because I selected all these movies this season, so I knew that this was going to be about ants. But when we see like the ants, like very early on in the movie, I'm like, okay, if you know what's coming, like here's a little foreshadowing, you know. And if you don't know, then you're just gonna see this as, oh, okay, they just showed ants for like a couple seconds, and then the biggest hint was the formic acid. And then they brought in the myrmecologists, and then, you know, once that came in, it was like, okay, like we're dealing with something
Right.
insect basically oriented. And then that whole scene with the girl when she starts screaming them, and basically the doctor's like, okay, we think we know what this is, but they still don't fill us in, basically.
Right. They don't come out and say it. Even then they don't really come out and say it. But it's clear that they have a good idea of what it is.
Yeah. And then we finally see what it is.
Right.
That was amazing. I loved that reveal because if I can recollect well, there was no music. It was just the noise of the sonic waves, whatever they were sending out the signal. And the shot of her just sitting there just looking, and then over the hills, this thing coming, it's just like, oh my God. That freaked me out. Even though I knew this is the way it was shot. It was the way it was shot.
Yes, that was a genuine scare, because it was like, yeah.
That was everything. I was
Yeah.
it was too close.
Yeah, it was too close. And oddly enough, like, they aren't really realistic looking, but there's something of like how they were made though that I mean, they looked hella demonic, the giant ants, and which made them like even more creepy.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like, one thing for me, like that, you mentioned it earlier, like that pulsating noise. I found it highly annoying, but it worked. I was like, oh my God, it gets every time I heard the noise, like, oh my God, there it goes again. But I feel like it really fit the purpose and what was going on. I feel like it was effective, even though I found it annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it got to be a bit much at a certain point, but it was effective. Like, it worked because it also it did have like a creepy factor to it because it's just a weird sound. Yeah,
it wasn't fun as hell. It was like, oh Jesus! But when you saw what it was attached to, it was like, oh,
yeah, it made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's rewind a bit and let's talk about that scene with the Ellison girl, because the doctors, Dr. Harold Medford and his daughter, Dr. Pat Medford, they get involved into the case, and they end up exposing the girl to some of the fumes from the formic acid, and that's when like she gets snapped out of this blank state that she was in, and she starts screaming them, and I guess they get the idea to like expose her to the acid because they discover that what was his name? Johnson, right?
Yeah.
That Johnson had died from a broken neck, back, skull fracture, crushed abdomen, and enough formic acid in his body to kill 20 men. Johnson was it wasn't a gas, it was like a general store, right?
Yeah,
the general store owner. And so that scene I thought was really well done. Like, this little girl, I give her props because she sold it completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene because, first of all, when you're really, really traumatized by something, a lot of times you are in like a daze. You can't talk. Mentally, you're just not there a lot of times. So for this little girl at this time to play this role so well, I thought it was highly convincing. Like, you could really feel her mental, and she looked like she was just mentally not there. And then when they do the whole thing with the fumes and stuff, and then she snaps out of it, her reaction was so believable. And the screaming, and I was like, oh yeah, I just, that was definitely my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was an awesome scene. Very well done, and I mean, she sold it completely, I think.
It's very iconic scene. I'm not gonna lie, I hate when little kids start screaming. That's just because I work in a library all day. So
kids are not supposed to scream in the library.
We tell them that, but we get cussed out. So that's a whole nother story. So at the same time, like Ramon said, it was effective, and I can see why they constantly use that, because going into this movie, when I say I hadn't seen it but I heard about it, that's the scene that always comes up. It's her screaming them. And so I'm thinking like she was going to be a big part of the movie, like she was going to probably like show them where the ants were or something like that. But anyway, I thought it was very effective too. It just, when she kept screaming and crying, I'm like, okay, somebody get her a sedative or something.
Yeah. Around the time that the movie was released, it really was like the time when there was this fear of the atomic bomb. And a lot of movies were created. I mean, I'd say they still are to this day, except, atomic has turned to nuclear and that kind of thing. And a lot of movies, like, around this time, like, had to deal with, like, atomic testings. And, these testings, like, morphing and, and end up creating, giant whatever, or it opens the door to creatures coming into the world that hadn't existed before and that kind of thing. What did y'all think of the sort of like atomic bomb trope that was used in this film?
I thought it was cool. I mean, it was definitely, like you said, it was one of those things where back then it was the fear of atomic energy and at least the rudimentary, things that people thought and assumed about, radiation and mutation and those kinds of things. So it wasn't as fantastic as it would sound. I mean, it definitely made for good fodder to create these monsters. So I liked it.
And it's like it evolved from a Boogie Boogie, Wolfman or Dracula. It's just like the horror is coming from your backyard. It's like something in your yard that can constantly kill you. So I entered this whole new era of horror. I mean, some people might sit there and look at this like, this is more science fiction than horror, but no. But you sit there and look at the base of this, just think you go out in your backyard one day and there's this big ass ant looking at you, trying to eat you. It's already 805. It's already 805. And
right.
So it's coming for
Fido.
you now. But for me, it'll be a big ass. Well, anything bigger than what's supposed to be would scare the hell out of me. So let me ask you this question. What came first? Was it them or Godzilla?
I feel like it was them.
I think them came before Godzilla, I think.
Okay, because them was in 1954, so which was way after the World War II with the atomic bomb. Not atomic bomb, but
Godzilla was also in 1954.
Wow.
Oh, wow. All right.
Okay.
Wow.
Godzilla was released November 3rd, 1954, and Them was released June 19th, 1954. So Them was first.
So Them was first. Okay.
Well, it was a global fear of these nuclear weapons being produced in mass quantities, and so it was just the next evolution of horror, So, yeah,
because it was, it still is so unknown, really, what the power it had. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They weren't sure what the hell it was going to do. And even though, we have seen what or they had seen at the time what an atomic bomb could have done, in Japan in 1945. like they still didn't know like what the capacity was. Like just because we've seen what happened in Japan doesn't necessarily mean that 100% that that's exactly what's going to happen the next time around. Right. And so this fear of the unknown, like what could happen? Like what if they're testing, this new version of some sort of bomb, whether it's atomic, nuclear, whatever, and something that's nearby gets exposed to it, and then all of a sudden we have giant ants or giant bugs or a giant lizards ravaging the countryside, basically.
Right.
And I think one thing that I like is that, you guys talk about being in the backyard and just the whole situation with atomic bombs. I think this was one of those movies that really started that relatability aspect to horror movies. And I think that as horror movies progress and we think about some of our favorite horror movies, there's aspects of it that is relatable, to things that could be in our backyard or things that we could see every day. And so that makes it even more scarier. And I really appreciate that aspect to this movie as well as others.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I know that we talked a little bit about the ants, but we sort of discussed like their first appearance. Let's talk about just the effects of the ants, like, period. What did we think of, like, everything that had to deal with the ants, from like the ant nest to the queen, the hatchlings, the actual ants that we saw attacking our humans? What do we think of the ants in general?
I like the nest. I thought the nest was cool or whatever. The queen and the hatchings. The overall structure, I guess I could say, of how the ants look, I thought it was you could tell it was fake. I thought it was so cheesy and fake at some points, but I liked it. And I thought it worked. I thought everything came together good, and I liked the technology aspect of it as far as how it was advanced for that particular time. But yeah, I didn't have any negative impression of it.
Yeah, I thought it was very well done for the time. I definitely had an appreciation for the effects and everything that they did. So it was I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, the nest to me was very. Oh my God, that made my skin crawl.
Yeah, the nest was gross.
Very gross. And to see the eggs, I mean, they said it in like very, very detailed to what it would look like. Like it was like a microscope. Not my microscope. It was like looking through a microscope at what an actual ant nest would look like. I have one question because I'm waiting to the end to answer this question. But y'all just remind me to ask it at the end. But I was like trying to figure out how deep they said how deep the nest went, but I was like, first nest they found, because I'm thinking like, yeah, y'all said y'all dropped a couple of bombs in and stuff like that, but how did we not know they didn't turn it out the other way? But y'all only went down 2 levels, you know what I'm saying? And I guess there was no other level for them to look, but that's dark. Y'all don't have that much light, and it might have been up under something. I don't know. I was just freaking out just looking at the nest. I was like, why are they down there? Why can't they send a drone or something?
Right.
Maybe not a drone, but just send something down there and just detonate. If it hits a wall, just detonate everything. I don't know. It just unnerved me.
Yeah, the ants were... I can agree with you, Ramon. I mean, they were very fake looking, but there was just still something creepy about them.
Right.
Like, they looked very creepy. The nest was really gross, though, so I 100% agree with you, Mark. It was a lot. So the plot of the movie basically is like they have to kill all these ants, basically, because they realize that a colony of ants like mutated by the radiation from the first atomic bomb testing near in New Mexico near Alamogordo. So basically they have to take out all these mutated ants, and so they end up using cyanide gas bombs and inside of a nest, But they end up discovering that two queens had hatched, and they probably escaped to create new colonies, and that turns into like this paranoia of like, where are the ants? Like, basically, where are these giant ants? And they finally figure it out after two boys were missing, and they connected that with the ants because the father's body was like mutilated, and so they end up killing all of the hatchlings and the queen that they find with flamethrowers and whatnot. And that's basically sort of like the resolution of the movie. As far as just like the plot in general, like post the discovery that it's these mutated ants that are sort of like causing the havoc. What did you all think of the plot? I guess, 30 minutes into the movie and beyond after the setup.
I liked it. I liked that I didn't feel like it was drawn out. I didn't get bored with it. I think that for it to be, an hour and 9 minutes or an hour and some change.
No, this one was actually an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the other one was an hour. Okay, that was the other one. That was an hour and 9 minutes. Okay. I feel like it took good usage of the time. I feel like, they kept it interesting from beginning to end.
Yeah, I never got, there were no slow moments in this movie for me. I mean, everything was really interesting. The acting was really interesting. There was some really, really goofy moments with Dr. Harold. So yeah, I mean, it was a nice mix of things going on. In this movie, there was actually a couple of scares for me in this movie, which was kind of cool.
For me, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, because like you guys just got to mentioning run times, and the first few movies we had, the run times were kind of like small, like like little quick knock. But I said, I guess I'm doing air quotes, spoiled in that, because when they got to the first nest, and they went into it and they were like, had all this gear and stuff, I'm like, this movie over with already? I'm like, and then they explained like, oh, this is the first, oh, there's a queen, there's two queens missing. I'm like, oh, okay. And so it kind of reminded me of that first, like, everybody keeps giving it to Jaws, but to me, this seemed like it would have been a first summer blockbuster if it was, released in the summer or something like that, because it hit a beginning, middle, and an end. You know what I'm saying? It set up, this epic journey for these characters to try to stop this threat against humanity. And it reminded me, and I hate to say it because I've watched them out of sequence, but it reminded me of like stuff like Independence Day, Tremors, stuff like that, where it's just like they set you up and you think everything's done, but no, there's been a twist, and now you got to go back and try to figure out how to. The last act is trying to really, for real, save the day and eradicate the threat. So it had a beginning, middle, and end, but it seemed like to me it was the precursor to the summer blockbuster setup, because you had all these different characters coming in throughout different parts of the movie, and they play like a big significant role at that particular moment in the movie and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna lie, I mixed a couple of them up, but I loved it. I loved the way it was set up.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. Like, the movie was an hour and a half, and it did take like 30 minutes to set up exactly what the hell we were watching. But those 30 minutes, it didn't feel slow. It didn't feel rushed. It felt just fine. And then the rest of the movie, the hour that was left, which really was sort of like the war between the ants and the humans, I thought it was really well done. It didn't have any slow points. It was suspenseful and creepy, and it was action-packed. Like, I thought they did a really great job with the pacing of the movie entirely. Like, the storyline was really well done and very thought out.
Yeah, and it was, and for me, it just felt like there was even a bit of a tonal shift, once they took care of the first nest, and then the two queens got away. So there was like even a subtle shift in tone where now it's like there's this battle that has to be waged. Like you said, it's war against the creatures, because, now we really got to get out there and hunt them down and stuff. But that was a cool moment, though, because it was just, it kind of changed from what could have been just some standard monster flick, into something else. So it kind of shifted into something else entirely that made it even more interesting.
And I want to also add the fact that the plausibility of the entire movie. The threat wasn't wiped out in 2 or 3 days. It took them 5 months to get this taken care of,
exactly.
Which made so much sense because, like a Godzilla, that took place within, I'm just going to say the modern Godzilla because I hate, I don't want to say anything bad about the original Godzilla. But everything's wrapped up in a weekend or something like that, or like a week or so. It's just like, no. These things are smart, so they knew what they were doing. They had to sit there and get on their level to figure out what was going on because it took them 5 months, several sightings, and several journeys across the United States to figure out how to take out this threat. And it wasn't like, they had all their ducks in a row, like everybody came in, like we just automatically don't know what to do when this happens. To me, it goes into Cloverfield. One of the reasons why I champion that movie and I defend it because a lot of people say, oh, the monster wasn't even scary. I would say, no, that's the point because you didn't know what's going on. That's the point. That's the point. When you don't know what's going on in a situation like that, there's all this uncertainty. That's what enhances the fear because you do not know what you are dealing with.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. I can't hear people talk bad about that movie because it was like if you didn't enjoy Cloverfield, you just did not get it, and that sucks to be you.
Exactly, because
that's what I always say there.
What would take me out of a movie very quick, and they did it with the new Godzilla. They know if you have somebody walk onto the scene knows everything, then your threat and your monster is rendered not scary.
Yeah, it's neutralized.
It's neutralized. So now it becomes a point of how much time do we have left to get the threat taken care of?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but with Cloverfield, you did not know what was going on. And the same thing with them. I love the fact that the army and everybody was like, what's going on? What should we do? And even the two specialists on hand was like, we got to do this though, but there's about 15 other factors in this that is going to hurt what's going on because like them throwing like the guy came in, he was like, well, why can't we just blow the whole thing? Why are we trying to save the city? Why are we risking the city's lives over 2 kids? You know what I'm saying? Because that might be dead. Because you don't know. Because on top of that, it's no telling what else could possibly put under that sewer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it could possibly also enhance mutations. So it was very plausible. And I love the fact that when the people was like martial law, and everybody like, but why? And why? And it wasn't like people saying like, well, this is crazy. I'm going to go outside and do whatever I want to do anyway. No, folks in Los Angeles literally was genuinely scared. Those extras in them scenes when the martial law trucks were coming to town, they were like, what is going on?
That's true.
Right.
It's like you have to just really give props to their writing because you don't see that nowadays. I swear you don't.
No, you really don't. It's all about setting up the spectacle of the scare.
Yeah, that's true. Mark, you had a question for us?
Okay, the only question was that when that first nest, they went into they had a whole argument about, you shouldn't be, no lady should be down there. And I'm like, look at them giving a whole feminist spiel and stuff like that. They're doing it already in 1954. And then she was like, but my dad is incapable of coming down there. He is not, he can't get down there like that. He's physically incapable of doing that. But then here comes Dr. Medford at the end of the movie, like in the midst of all this stuff going on, like there are like torn and destroyed beams, and like if they have to move quickly and you can't move too quickly, then you're struck. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it was just like, sir, you could have sat there and just radio in that last quote at the end of the movie on the intercom or something like that for them all to hear, because I was like, because if something moves suddenly, then you're fucked.
He's dead.
He's
That's
dead.
true.
That's my question. Y'all picked it up.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, you could just sit on down and stay out the way so they could do what they need to do.
Was there anything else, any plot points that any of you wanted to bring up before we head on into the awards?
Did them boys get out? Because all I remember is them going through a tunnel, and then the lead getting bit or like manhandled or something like that. So I'm like, where did they go? So I must have turned my head to see what was on the other end of that tunnel that they went in. So
Yeah, he got the boys out just before he was attacked.
Right.
Yeah.
cool. That's all I got.
All right, let's head into the awards section and let's see if Them has been nominated for any awards. And it was nominated for an Academy Award in 1955
Wow.
for Best Effects, Special Effects.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But now we're going to hand out our own awards. But right before we do that, let's check in on the Rotten Tomatoes Fresh Meter. And Them is 100% certified fresh.
Oh wow.
Wow.
That's impressive.
That is. But now it's time to be even more impressive because we're going to hand out our own awards because we're here in the ballroom and that's what we do. So let's start off with the creepiest moment.
Oh, for me that was the very first reveal.
Yes.
When first Anne appeared over her head, I was just like, that was a genuinely scary moment for me.
I can
Yes.
co-sign that.
For me, I'm gonna say when the cop saw that little girl wandering and she was in her days, just around her little pajamas and whatever. For me, that did it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with both of those. I think I'm going to go lean mostly towards what Legionnaire says because that's what got me. Because that's when I was like, oh, shit. Oh, it's too damn close. You know what I'm saying? It's too damn close for comfort. You know what I'm saying? So, and then she got up and started stumbling and stuff. But I think the first chill, rather than jump scare, the first chill I got was when they went to that trailer and they found a piece of that doll and the piece of that blanket that the girl was wrapped in, Ramon.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
what chilled me because I'm
Yeah.
like, she was there. And then
Right.
they sat there and said the FBI agent was on vacation with his wife and his 2 kids. Where did the other child? I was like, oh my God, that thing that ate a child. I'm like, oh my, oh. And it just, you know how I feel about this. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's time.
That's true.
No, so
Oh no, not the babies, Lord, not the babies.
not the babies.
What was the most disgusting moment?
The nest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Seeing them damn eggs and one being open and shit. Cause you thinking like it might be one behind you. You just don't even know it.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What was the kill of the night?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Killing the night.
I'm gonna say when they. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Legion. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say when they attacked this ship because I'm like, oh, they bold. She went onto the ship and laid eggs, and then it sat there and took this whole ship. I was like, wow.
That's
You know,
true.
I forgot about that. You're
I
right.
was just gonna say, I forgot about that too.
I was like, that is
Yeah.
bold because you have nowhere to run.
At all.
Nowhere to run.
Right.
You just purely stuck.
What about the WTF am I watching moment?
For me, it was when she started screaming. That just
Yeah.
threw me all the way off.
Yeah. Yep. That will be it.
The most non-politically correct moment. When
When
she
the
was
person
told
that-
you're a woman,
Correct. I was just
Yes.
gonna, I was just gonna say that. Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be down here.
And she came down there and called the shots. I said, okay, precursor
Exactly.
to Ripley.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
It's so true.
The Mickey Rooney Award for Excellence in Child Acting.
The little girl.
Oh, come on. You know who will get
One by one.
Right.
It has to be the little Ellison girl.
She was
had
good.
a significant child. She had a significant child part.
That one scene.
that one
Yeah.
scene is iconic. And then when they
Mhm.
showed the 2 little boys, I'm like, one of them, like, he was laughing. I'm like, this is not a joke. Like, no,
Right.
there's a big ant coming towards you. Look scared. Like, you look like you're about to laugh or something like that. I'm like, you're fired. But
That's too funny. Now it's time to rank the film in our very special Horror Hotel categories. We've got 5 categories to choose from. You may mix and match. The first category is a screamer for a film that is filled with scares. Next is the gut buster for a film you find grotesque. Next, it is the eye popper for a film that is visually impressive. Then we've got the gravedigger for a film that lacks scares. And then the final category is the mind blower for overall best in show. Let's start off with Legionnaire.
This one is going to get a mind blower and a gut buster for me because I really, really enjoyed this movie. And it even had, there was even actually a couple of scares in it for me. So that just upped the ante for me. It was great.
Ramon, what about you?
I'm going to give it an eye popper and a mind blower. I think I just love everything about the little girl. But just the whole thing with the nest and I think that pulsating noise in the background helped it as well. And I just liked the overall setting and structure of the movie. I enjoyed it.
Mark, what about you?
I'm gonna give it an eye popper. I'm gonna give it a best in show. It's everything.
Mind blower.
Mind blower. Okay. Mind blower, eye popper, best in show. That's why I got to give it because I got some scares. I was like, wow. I mean, even though the ants
Screamer.
Screamer, yeah, Screamer. I mean, because them ants was looking, yeah, they were slow, mechanical, and it's like, it reminded you of an old episode of Doctor Who, but it was still creepy because look how many bullets they had to put into one for it to go down. That's scary. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
and it's still moving towards you while you try to shoot it.
And it might go, and it can still take you out. It's just like it might die a few minutes later, but it took you down with it. So yeah, I was genuinely scared. So yeah, Screamer, eye popper, mind blower, best in show. Sorry.
I'm gonna give it a gut buster for the nest, an eye popper for the ants, because even though they did look a little bit fake, or a lot fake, they were still really good and really cool and very impressive for the time. So I have to give it an eye popper for that. And I also liked the mixture of the ants with like the real world locations. That just made them look even more menacing because it didn't look fake, like, you know, like they spliced stuff together. It really looked like they were right there in front of these like giant puppety type of ants, which was pretty neat. I'm also going to give it a mind blower because I thought it was overall best in show. It was really, really good, entertaining, and great plot, great characters, strong characters, and yeah. So those 3 from me. Now let's rate the film on a scale of 1 to 10 hotel room keys. The point system is allowed, and let's start off with Ramon.
Well, with everything I just said as far as the categories, I would give it 9 room keys.
Okay. What about you, Mark?
9.5 room keys because I wasn't expecting to like it. I was like, this is a creature feature with these rubber monsters, and we just it's gonna be a little cute thing though. But no, the way it was paced, the way it was written, the way it set the stage for other movies to come, and even it's still as well written than some of the summer blockbusters that we have today. I loved it, so that's why I got 9.5.
Legionnaire.
Oh, definitely a 9.5 room keys. For much of the reasons that Mark gave, I thought that I would like it, but I didn't know that I would like it this much. Because of course, it's definitely been shared that I'm a fan of, monster movies, and this one I had never seen. So it was everything about it I enjoyed. I mean, it definitely had scares in it, even for something that's, that's as dated as it was. It definitely holds up well, and it's definitely something that I would watch again.
And I'm going to continue on the hype train. I'm going to give it a 9.5 as well, for basically all the reasons that everyone has given it. I thought the plot was really good. I thought the story was very strong. The little girl sold it. And even though she pulled a Drew Barrymore from Scream or a Janet Leigh from Psycho, in which she was only in like the first 20 minutes of the movie, she did make a lasting impression, and if it wasn't for her, we really wouldn't know what the hell was going on. So kudos to her, and just overall I thought it was a very strong picture, and it being sort of like at the forefront of like all these creature features that ended up coming out afterwards. I have to give it major props and kudos. So 9.5 from me. And on that note, please drag your bodies away from the ballroom and prepare to check out. Join us next time for a brand new installment of Horror Hotel. Once again, here's one of our bellhops with a few special announcements.
Good evening. We thank you for your patronage. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PCR Horror Hotel. Follow Panpichulo Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube, at Panpichulo Radio. For more information on Horror Hotel, visit panpichuloradio.com/Horror Hotel. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@panpichuloradio.com. Help support Panpichulo Radio financially by visiting gofundme.com/panpichuloradio. Are you interested in joining the Panpichulo Radio team as an on-air personality or blog contributor? Email talent@panpichuloradio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Panpichulo Radio programs by visiting panpichuloradio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through iTunes. Just search for Panpichulo Radio's Horror Hotel, and subscribe. We hope you've brought your death certificate. Make final arrangements now.
Thank you, my fellow Horror Hotel team. Please wish our hotel guests and the listeners a good night.
Good night, all. Stay safe out there.
Good night, everybody. Just make sure you don't piss off the next ant you come across, because they might be after us one day.
Take care, everybody. It was fun.
Thanks for tuning in. You may have checked into the Horror Hotel, but who says you're allowed to check out? Good night.